So last week, right after California Governor Jerry Brown signed their state's net neutrality bill into law, just hours later, the Justice Department announced that they'd be suing the state of California in order to overturn that law, and now the entire internet industry is dogpiling on California in an effort to also get them to overturn their net neutrality law, and they are suing California alongside the Justice Department. So as Heather Kelly of CNN Business reports, the internet industry is suing the state of California over its days-old net neutrality law. The lawsuit filed on Wednesday by major trade groups representing broadband companies is the second major lawsuit filed against the state over the law. The first was brought by the Justice Department. The impending legal battle could drag on for many months, if not longer. Daniel Lyons, an associate professor at Boston College Law School who specializes in telecommunications and internet regulation, told CNN, "A lot is riding on the outcome. The California law is considered the most thorough state-level net neutrality legislation yet passed, and other states are expected to use it as a blueprint for their own laws. If California wins in court, it would open the door for those other states to take similar actions. However, the FCC could try to come back with an order to block their efforts again," Lyons said. The industry groups taking part in the new lawsuit represent major companies, including AT&T, Comcast, and Verizon, as well as other cable companies and wireless providers across the U.S. The groups had previously lobbied against the state law. CNN is owned by AT&T. "We oppose California's action to regulate internet access because it threatens to negatively affect services for millions of consumers and harm new investment and economic growth. Republican and Democratic administrations time and again have embraced the notion that actions like this are preempted by federal law," the trade groups U.S. Telecom, CTIA, the Wireless Association, the Internet and Television Association, and the American Cable Association said in a statement. "We will continue our work to ensure Congress adopts bipartisan legislation to create a permanent framework for protecting the open internet that consumers expect and deserve." So, for those of you who are wondering just how effective California's net neutrality law would be, this is all the proof you need that it's an effective bill, because it clearly scares the internet industry. Otherwise, why else would the totality of the internet industry, all of their lobbyists, all of their lawyers and representatives, join up to sue the state of California? It's because they know exactly what this would do. This would curtail their anti-consumer practices, and you have to really point out the Orwellian doublespeak here, because they're talking about a free and open internet and how this harms consumers. We just talked about this last week. California's bill is the strongest bill in the nation because it goes a little bit further than other states in order to protect consumers. But here, they're claiming that they support an open internet. Meanwhile, we all know that that's not true because they lobbied to kill net neutrality. It was Verizon and AT&T that put pressure on the FCC while they were planning to repeal net neutrality and convinced Ajit Pai to adopt a rule preempting states in the event they didn't like the FCC's repeal of net neutrality and wanted to create their own legislation. So make no mistake about it, these are not your allies. They are not concerned with consumers. They don't care about the internet being free and open. All that they care about is their bottom line. These companies have a fiduciary responsibility to increase shareholder value, and that's their concern. They don't care about your access to websites unless it means charging you even more money than they're already charging you. So this really goes to show you just how well that lawmakers in California crafted this bill, because it is scaring these companies shitless. So now we have two major legal challenges. The Justice Department, literally Donald Trump's administration, is suing California, and now the entire internet industry is suing California. That's two major lawsuits. So I have no idea how this is going to turn out, but they are using all the force they possibly have in order to make sure that this law is overturned. Now, again, we talked about how Oregon and Washington are two other states that have passed their own net neutrality laws, but the reason why California is being targeted is specifically because of their provision that prohibits zero rating. So what that does is, let's say you have 5 gigs of data each month, and you're a little bit disinclined from using apps like Netflix because that's going to eat up a lot of your data. Well, what companies like T-Mobile and AT&T will do is they'll introduce their own streaming app, and they'll tell consumers, hey, if you don't want to eat up your data using these video streaming services, well, if you use our video streaming app, that's not going to count towards your data, and you're free to use it as much as you want. Well, what does that do? That provides consumers with an incentive to use AT&T or T-Mobile streaming service over services like Netflix. That's anti-competitive because they're trying to kill off their competitors in order to artificially boost numbers for their own app. It's how they plan to dominate the market, is by a lack of regulation. But what California is doing is not only protecting net neutrality, but is saying, no, you're not allowed to block and throttle websites for consumers, and also you're not allowed to try to kill off competitors by punishing people who use video streaming apps other than your own. And it's absolutely legislation that is crucial, and it's what the FCC was working towards under the leadership of Tom Wheeler. They were originally planning to tackle zero rating. However, we had a presidential upset, and then Trump got in there and promoted Ajit Pai, and then the rest is history. We all know what happened. Within the first year of him being in charge of the FCC, he repealed net neutrality. So we need this lawsuit to go in our favor, because if it does, if the Californian law holds up in court, then, as the article states, this could act as a blueprint for other states who do want to replicate this law in their state. But a lot of states, even if a lot of constituents are currently putting pressure on state lawmakers to adopt similar legislation, they're too afraid to do it. California was actually bold. Their lawmakers, like Scott Wiener, said, you know what, I don't know how this will turn out legally for us, but regardless, we're going to do what's right. We're going to represent our constituents, and we're going to codify net neutrality into law. Other states aren't so bold. They're afraid, right? They don't want to do anything that might cost them money, even if it means protecting consumers. So what we're currently seeing also, to give you a little bit of an update to the Justice Department lawsuit, is they're trying to put a stay on California's law, saying, well, you know what, that law can't actually go into effect until the justice system makes its determination as to whether or not this law is legal in the first place. So they're pulling out all the stops. It's incredibly dirty, but understand that people who are claiming to be on your side, and really more specifically corporations who are claiming to be on your side, and lobbying firms like US Telecom and CTIA who are claiming to be on your side, they're not on your side. They don't care about you. They care about their customers, and their customers are Verizon, AT&T, Comcast. They're paid millions of dollars every single year to represent them and lobby for the policies that AT&T and Comcast want. And that's what they're doing now. They're still representing their customers. If the entire internet industry is trying to dogpile on you in order to overturn your net neutrality law, you know you're doing something right. You know that you're looking out for the consumers in a way that's really bold, and I commend lawmakers in California.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.